Hi, everybody. How do you let go of guilt? This is a good topic. And so, whether or not you are a parent, maybe you have mom guilt working, maybe you're a professional, a teacher, an entrepreneur, maybe you're a young person that's really feeling guilty about something. How do we let go of guilt? We're going to be talking about 3 practical strategies for you to do that. If we haven't met, my name is Dr. Karyn. I've been doing this for 25 years, working with both businesses, family businesses, and also families. My doctorate's in marriage and family, but today we do most of our work now with organizations globally. And so this topic of guilt comes up a lot. I was speaking at a conference just out of New York last week, and during the Q&A, which this is often with what happens, the topic of actually guilt came up in a leadership development event. So this is one of those topics that really it impacts us both professionally and personally. So how do we deal with it? All right. So 3 things, get out your pen and paper, everybody. All right. So tip number 1 is I want us to really understand what is guilt. So what is guilt? Guilt is a feeling. We have hundreds of feelings. Okay. Guilt is simply a feeling. It's how I feel. Feelings are one word. Okay. So I feel guilty. Guilt is not positive or negative. Okay, it's just what we like to say, pleasant or unpleasant. Most of us don't really want to feel guilty. Okay, so but it's really just from an emotion management perspective. I just want you to understand that it's just a good principle for us not to say feelings are good or bad, because feelings are always there to help us. Remember that. Feelings are always there to help us. So what is guilt? Guilt is a feeling. It's not good or bad. It's just happens to be not really pleasant. I don't know a lot of people that would like to feel guilty. So guilt is a feeling. And one of the things I really encourage people to think about is when they feel guilty, instead of like focusing on the guilt, I feel guilty, understand with what's causing the guilt. So there's a thought that is driving how we feel. So for a lot of people who feel guilty, it's because the thought is something around I should or I should not have. Okay, so that there's something that's happening in our thought pattern that is causing us to feel guilty. So the thought for you might be, I think that I shouldn't work, or I think that I'm working too much. I think I'm away from my children. I think I'm a bad mother, so therefore I feel guilty. Or I think I should not have had the affair. Okay, that might be your thought, okay? Or I think I should not have stolen money. That might have been your thought. So listen, we can feel guilty about all kinds of different things. So the key I want you to really understand is that guilt, the feeling of guilt is not the problem. It's the thought that we have to really unpack to really figure out, is that thought healthy or is it not healthy? Is that thought trying to tell us something? Okay, so that is really with what we want to really first understand is what really is guilt. Guilt is a feeling. It's not good or bad. It's there to help us. It's like a little referee. I've talked about this in other videos. And if you like this video, make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel because there's lots of goodies and lots of great tools that you can actually learn here. And so I've talked about this in a lot of our other videos, that feelings are not good or bad. They're always there to help us. We need to stop and let our emotion guide us and help us pause to see whether or not we have to be doing something a little bit different in our life. Okay, so guilt is there to help us. It's like a little referee that says, pause. What are you doing? Let's kind of go back to the thought. So that's kind of like tip number 1. Number 2 is once we understand what the thought is that's actually causing the guilt, we need to step in, lean in, analyze, and learn. Okay, so for example, if your thought is, I think that I'm not available enough for my children. I think that I'm working too much, and therefore I feel guilt. Okay, so the whole thing about mom guilt is like a really big thing. It's a very common thing. Okay, so I think that I'm not available enough for my children, and therefore I feel guilty. So maybe that's the thought that you have. So then what you need to stop and think about is that a realistic thought? Is that a healthy thought? I will tell you from my perspective, because I went through this, I've got twins that are now 16. But when I'm an entrepreneur, I've been an entrepreneur for many years. And when I knew that I was having children, I thought, do I need to be at home full time? Do I need part-time, full-time? What do I have to do? And I was really wrestling with this. And I had to kind of think to myself, is the thought I need to be home full time, is that really a healthy thought? Is that a good fit for me? Or is the thinking, should my thinking be more, I think for me to be my best version of self, I think I'm actually a better mom if I work at least part-time, if not full-time. That's just my hardwiring. That's just kind of who I am. And so I came to realize for myself, and everybody is different, okay? So that you just have to kind of really kind of look at yourself a little differently. For me, I realize I'm a better version of myself when I'm working. And so I worked part-time when the boys were little, and then as they got older, I went back to more full-time. I knew for myself that that was a better fit. That's not for everybody. And so therefore, because of that, because I realized that was my new thought pattern, I didn't feel guilty for working, because I knew that for me, and this is my own journey with understanding this, is that I just felt more energized. I love what I do. I feel it's very purposeful. I'm helping people. So for me, I felt like my work brought so much joy. I had a lot of energy from it. So I actually then therefore had more to give to my children. So therefore I didn't feel guilty for working, but that was my own process because I was very careful and mindful around what my thought pattern was. If you, for example, and again, I'm just throwing this out as an example, if you feel guilty because you're doing something inappropriate, you're having an affair, you're doing something against your moral compass, and your thought pattern is, I think that I shouldn't be doing this, and therefore I feel guilty. What I want you to do is I want you to stop. I want you to really pause and lean in, analyze this, and say, you know what, your guilt is there to help you. So sometimes our guilt is really there to make us pause and stop and do something a little different. Sometimes it's because our thinking is off. And so we have to kind of, we have to learn how to decipher between these two different things. The guilt itself is the same emotion, but what's causing it can be very different. Okay. So that's kind of the second thing is I want you to stop, lean in, analyze around with what's actually causing the guilt. And then the third thing is I want you to take an action step. When you know, with guilt and really with any other emotion, is that, for example, if once we understand something, we learn something, then the big phrase I love to tell all of our clients is, what's your action step? What's your takeaway? Now that you've learned this, what are you going to do differently? In my case, and I'm just giving the example around working, I learned for myself, once I understood that, I had that self-awareness, I learned that when my children were small, working part-time was a good fit for me. So that was my takeaway. All right. That was my takeaway once I understood this. If you are doing something that is against your moral compass, that's something that is illegal, that you know is really not, your radar is kind of going off in your head, then what are you going to do differently? You know, I love the quote. I think it's Maya Angelou that said, once you know different, you do different. So once you know something and you know it's not right, my encouragement is you stop and you do something different. We all make mistakes. All of us make mistakes. All of us do things going, I should not have done that. Stop. Don't beat yourself up. Don't kind of be super tough on yourself. Stop, pause, learn, do something different. Course correct. We can all start a new day, a new chapter, and make better choices. And so my encouragement is, whatever you're feeling guilty about, really allow your guilt to be your friend. What is it trying to tell you to help guide you in a way maybe to live your life a little bit differently? So that, my friends, is how you get rid of guilt. So if you like this content, make sure, like I said, you subscribe to the YouTube channel. If you want to learn more around emotional intelligence and specifically about emotion management, we have a wonderful leadership scorecard that actually helps people actually score themselves in terms of how well they're actually learning emotion management. And that is actually with what I was teaching just now, is emotion management. So make sure you hit yes, write down yes below, and someone from our team will send that out to you. And it's a free way for you to continue to learn more tools to help you lead a successful life, both in work and home.